Hello. Today we're going to talk about Star Wars and the inspiration from Star Wars. It's not a crazy idea to say that when Star Wars hit theaters in 1977, no matter how old you are, even if you were a seed in a body, it changed cinema forever. But while it may have seemed to have arrived from a galaxy far, far away, director George Lucas drew inspiration from the universe from multiple sources, including history, mythology, theology, and, as I'm about to say, other films as well. What films do you think he was inspired from? Curious on the comments below. Pause. You write your comment? Fantastic. In terms of story and tone, Star Wars and Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey could not be any more different. One is a fantasy tale with space battles and lasers, and the other is a brooding meditation on humanity featuring depiction of realistic spaceflight and ambiguous imagery. Yet, from its classical score to the many visual references and portrayals of Senate machines, Star Wars is full of nods to the groundbreaking film. George Lucas has previously mentioned A Space Odyssey as being a huge influence. The two films also have a direct link thanks to makeup artist Stuart Freeborn, who worked on both movies, creating the apes for 2001 The Dawn of Man sequence and designing the puppet for Yoda in Star Wars. Good job, Freeborn. Another film, 633 Squadron, is a World War II film directed by Walter Grumman about a fictional Royal Air Force, or RAF, fighter-bomber squadron. Upon release, critics panned the movie for its historical inaccuracies. However, that did not stop 633 Squadron from becoming a war movie classic, nor did it stop the film from leaving a significant impression on George Lucas and others working on Star Wars. 633 Squadron influence is most apparent in the famous trench run sequence toward the end of A New Hope, where Luke Skywalker and his squadron must attack a vulnerable state in the Death Star. That is because Lucas based much of the action in the sequence on the 633 Squadron own finale. That is because Lucas based much of the action in that sequence on the 633 Squadron's own final, which sees the bombers flying through a deep area while being fired upon by anti-aircraft guns. All artists steal is the main feature of this video. Few sci-fi movies do not owe a debt to the 1927 German film Metropolis, and Star Wars is no exception. In particular, the futuristic art style of Metropolis engulfs a city was a clear inspiration for the impossibly tall buildings of Coruscant. Star Wars talk. Furthermore, both the Star Wars franchise and Metropolis share the same central themes surrounding power conflict. However, nowhere does the influence of Metropolis makes itself more apparent than in the design of C-3PO. While the Star Wars crews may have given C-3PO a masculine identity, his resemblance to the more feminine robot, I'm not about to say this name, from Metropolis is no accident. Instead, according to the concept artist Ralph McQuarrie, who played a significant role in designing C-3PO, the other robot in Metropolis was a direct inspiration for his design. It is no secret that Star Wars borrowed many settings, plot devices, and tropes from many classic westerns. However, few titles left such a clear impression on the films than The Searchers, a 1956 movie directed by John Ford and written by Frank S. Nugent. The story follows John Wayne as a bitter Civil War vet, teaming up with his nephew to rescue his kidnapped niece. The basics of the plotline are mirrored in A New Hope. For that matter, so is this epic desert setting. But perhaps the most obvious influence scene is one where Wayne's character returns to his brother's ranch to discover an after effects of a massacre. The result is a scene strikingly similar to when Luke Skywalker returned to his aunt and uncle's home to find that they've been killed by stormtroopers and left burning. Such a shame. If only Luke Skywalker had John Wayne. Wizard of Oz and Star Wars are undeniably cultural touchstones in the history of cinema. Clap your red heels if you agree. Ever since Star Wars debuted on the big screens, fans, critics, and even cast members have been drawing comparisons between the two. The closer you look at the films, the harder it is to ignore the resemblances of each film, besides the tornado scene. Both tell the story of an adventure-hungry teenager raised on a farm by their aunt and uncle. Though circumstances outside their control, protagonists leave their world behind to traverse strange lands inhabitable by various unusual creatures. As critic Roger Ebert notes, that also end up with similar set of companions. The golden robot, lion-faced space pilot, an insecure little computer on wheels. Must have been suggested by the Tin Man, Cowardly Lion, and the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz, he said. Adding to the litany of similarities is the fact that concept designer Ralph McQuarrie went on record to say that Emerald City inspired the look of Cloud City in The Empire Strikes Back. In any case, whether it came directly or indirectly, The Wizard of Oz's influence on Star Wars franchise is undeniable. Which do you like more, Wizard of Oz or Star Wars? The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad is a notable influence on Star Wars in a simple fact that it pioneered many of the special effects techniques that Star Wars later relied on, including optical printing, where layers of film are placed on top of one another, and colorized stop motion. But its influence extends far beyond that. Like the original Star Wars, the story behind the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad revolves around an adventure to rescue a princess. Sinbad is also a feature scene where the hero and a princess swing across a chasm on a rope. Something mirrored this in a scene featuring Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia in A New Hope. Similarities also extend to the prequels as well, with the character Count Dooku, whose shades of gray villainy borrow heavily from Sukor, the magician in Sinbad. When Sukor's evil ambitions are revealed in Sinbad, he unleashes the beasts of the island on our hero. Count Dooku does the same thing at the end of Attack of the Clones. Finally, Sinbad's theme of showing kindness to a lesser being is something that plays out through this Star Wars franchise, particularly in the alliance formed between the Rebels and Ewoks in Return of the Jedi. So, in a way, Ewoks are Sinbad's children. Triumph of the Will was a big-budget propaganda film made for the Nazis. But while most movie studios would probably prefer not to talk about it, it is also one of the most influential movies ever in terms of cinematography. Instead, the film, now infamous aerial shots of thousands of Nazi soldiers standing at attention for Hitler, has inspired movie moments in films ranging from The Lion King to Lord of the Rings, and of course Star Wars. Interestingly, the first shot in Star Wars franchise that captures the triumph of the will's presentation recreates the sequences in a positive light. Oddly, the creation occurs during the end of A New Hope, with the good guys are awarded with medals for their bravery and victory as well. You go, boys. And robot. However, shots in both The Empire Strikes Back and The Force Awakens takes inspiration from the film to depict the bad guys as unstoppable, powerful, and fascist groups. Which is quite interesting that Lucas would add that in the film, but it is quite notable and powerful scene. While Star Wars undoubtedly draws much from Western culture, tradition, and cinema, its universe also resets upon the shoulders of Eastern influencers. In particular, the robes and lightsabers, mannerisms, religions of the Jedi and Sith are a clear nod to traditional Japanese culture. Furthermore, the word Jedi is said to come from the Japanese word Jedakaya, a genre of historical drama that includes many of the films of Akira Kurosawa, including Seven Samurai. I've seen it not in a while, but it is a very good film if you want to watch something classical. George Lucas has never been shy about his love for Kurosawa's films and Seven Samurai. And if you love Quentin Tarantino, I believe Seven Samurai is linked to Kill Bill as well. I went and saw it and basically changed my life, he would say in a 2005 interview with The Telegraph. I mean, it's brilliant film, and every time I see it, I can't believe the magic texture and mixture of a great story and great acting, humor, action, and suspense. Wonderful cinema. The film tells the story of a village frequently betrayed by a group of raiders. Seeking protection, the villagers hire 7 ronin, samurai without masters, from different backgrounds to protect them. The premise of assembling to a rag team is sometimes called the 7 Samurai Formula, and you can find it all over Star Wars. From the original trio to the new heroes we meet in the sequels and spin-offs and so forth. There are also plenty of nods to the cinematography of 7 Samurai, found throughout Star Wars films, including the final fake-out duel between Kylo Ren and Luke Skywalker in the Star Wars The Last Jedi. Like everything, artists steal. Like 633 Squadron, The Dam Busters, is another war film centered on pilots that significantly influenced the trench run sequence from A New Hope. The film, directed by Michael Anderson, tells the real-life story of RAF raids on 3 dams in Germany territory during World War II. Partways through the movie, the pilots are informed of a near-impossible shot that need to make to destroy these dams. Similar impossible shot scenario occurs during Star Wars when Luke Skywalker has a blast, a small thermal exhaust port with his proton torpedoes. Lucas also pulled dialogue near verbatim out of the Dam Busters. For example, take the dialogue sequence where one of the pilots asks, "How many guns do you think, Trevor?" To which Trevor responds, "I'd say that there's about 10 guns. Some in the field, some on the tower." Sound familiar? Good job, Lucas. The influence of the Dam Busters only became more obvious when you realize that A New Hope's cinematographer, Gilbert Taylor, worked on special effects photography for the Dam Busters. Makeup artist Stuart Freeborn also worked on both films. Coincidence? I don't think so. Lucas knew how to get the best of the films. Another Japanese movie directed by Akira Kurosawa, In the Hidden Fortress, and its influence on Star Wars is perhaps even more apparent than Seven Samurai. For instance, the contrast between many of the characters are unmissable. Both films feature a feisty pro-feminist princess leading a rebellion after bad guys destroy their kingdom. Thus, Princess Leia. Meanwhile, the character arc of legendary general in the Hidden Fortress is almost identical to that of Obi-Wan Kenobi in A New Hope. Both McCabe and Kenobi are initially brushed off as crazy old men by those around them, but showed their powers in a duel with an old rival that allows their allies to escape. In both films, the story is largely told through the eyes of 2 unassuming lower-class characters. In the Hidden Fortress, the role is fulfilled by 2 bickering peasants, Tai and Mashrai. I butchered that, I apologize. Of course, Star Wars, the same role is fulfilled by droids, not people. Nonetheless, in both instances, these overlooked characters often end up unintentionally saving the day on multiple occasions. There is also a bad guy turns good subplot in General Hayo Takoto that bears some similarities to Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi. Finally, multiple Star Wars films and The Hidden Fortress features a big baddie pulling all the strings off screen. Beyond the story and characters, Star Wars also clearly draws from the cinematography and style of The Hidden Fortress. Take, for instance, the use of wipe transitions as a way to intercut scenes and imply the passage of time and similarities on the musical score, which is quite neat. They should bring that back. Make things more fluid. Not cheesy at all. Anyway, what do you think of Star Wars? Is there any original film out there? Curious your answer. Anyway, have a great one. Thanks for watching. Bye.